there, this is Roger Pascal. I'm the CEO of Real Impact Training Systems. For those of you who are new to this call, at Real Impact, we improve the quality of people's lives through real estate investing. Through several locations in Texas and now one in Oklahoma City, Real Impact provides local real estate investors with networking and educational meetings. Our locations are franchises owned and operated by seasoned investors who we call Impact Master Trainers, in short, IMTs. In addition to monthly meetings and workshops, our IMTs offer many one-on-one mentoring programs where you can work with them on your personal real estate journey. If you're interested in learning more about our training options, please reach out to one of our Impact Master Trainers. You can find the IMT locations and contact information online at realimpacttraining.com. Just click the locations button on the middle of the screen. In a few minutes, several of our IMTs will be joining us so you can meet them tonight. One of our primary objectives each Sunday night is to provide you with an opportunity to ask questions about real estate investing. You have no need to wait for the work week to start. Just type in your questions in the chat box, and we'll see if we can get you one of the answers from one of our IMTs, and to provide that information to you. Sorry, I stumbled around on that, but thank you for joining us tonight. We have an exciting night tonight. This is one of my favorite subjects. If you don't know who I am, I eat, breathe, and drink subject to. I love the whole concept of subject to, everything about it. And we are here, every one of our IMTs, every one of our Impact Master Trainers, they are very fluent in subject to. They are incredible. Every one of our trainers, every one of us on this call, we do subject to deals on an ongoing, consistent basis. So we're excited to have you on here tonight. We have several of our IMTs. CJ, if you can pop everybody up here, and we'll introduce everybody as they come on. Karen Maxwell, Impact Master Sales and Marketing. Karen is also taking on the Plano location that's going to be starting later this month. And then Dennis Henson. Dennis is my partner. Dennis and I have been running around together for more than 15 years. I have learned more from this man than I would have ever thought I could have learned from anybody else in this world. So, Dennis, welcome to the call tonight.
Thank you. Welcome.
He is also the president of Real Impact Training, and our whole philosophy of training is based on the Dennis Henson concept of training that he's been doing for hundreds of years or decades, whatever comes. So, and Tal Wynn, our Oklahoma City IMT. Welcome on the call, Tal. She is like our tax expert. I mean, she does tax sales like you wouldn't believe. And then, if we have somebody, if there's anything with a really weird long word, we can ask her, because she's also a former pharmacist. So she'll tell us what that word means. So, and then Pam Cleary is on here. She is out of the Alliance Decatur location, and she is what I call our rehab queen. She doesn't have her crown on tonight, but she doesn't need her crown. You just picture her with a crown on there, because she does phenomenal jobs on the rehabs. Then we have Tim Lockhart. Tim Lockhart is Wichita Falls and Denton, Texas, 2 locations. And Tim is kind of our private money expert. He's also a realtor. Pam's also a realtor. Cal's also a realtor. The others on here are not. But Tim is phenomenal with money. And oh my gosh, can he think outside the box? He told me about a couple of deals he's working on right now. And I'm like, that is such a creative way to make those things happen. And just massive deals that he's got. And then we have Eric Short. Eric Short is one of our newest IMTs. Eric is Grand Prairie, and we're excited to have him on board here. Eric's been doing investing, and I'm not going to say it's one of his first ones, but one that I first was involved with him on was actually a subject to. So he's got some great information on there tonight. And then we have Doug and Renee Toon, or Renee Toon. I think they're in the car. I think they're driving somewhere. I don't know where they're going, but they're Longview, Texas, Far East Texas. Look at there. He's got the aviator cool sunglasses on. Top Gun. So just hope he doesn't drive like Top Gun. So you're okay. So welcome on board, Doug and Renee Toon. All right. So Karen, we're going to start this out with what you've got. You've got some great questions tonight that have come to us throughout the week. So tell us. You know what? Does anybody have anything in particular to talk about? Maybe a tip or anything, or if not, we can just get started in this call. I didn't even ask y'all earlier this week when we put this together. So everybody good? We're good, ready to go?
We're ready to rock and roll.
All right, good deal. So Karen?
Well, I want to welcome everybody tonight, and please make sure that if you haven't already, that you make sure you subscribe to Real Impact Network here on YouTube and hit the bell. We go live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, unless it's a holiday. And you'll get a reminder whenever we go live, and we don't want you to miss out. So make sure you do that. Okay. Well, our first question, I'm actually going to take this one. It is, what do I do if a property is in foreclosure? Well, my answer is time is of the essence. When a property is in foreclosure, there's no time to mess around. So please don't be one of those people that gets the property under contract and then you don't know what to do with it and you don't know how to do it. You've never done one before and you don't have any money, and make them lose their home. So partner up with someone that knows what they're doing if you don't have the cash and the knowledge and the skill set to get it done. But we had a recommendation of using a short sale specialist, and the guys were unanimous in recommending John Culberson. So that's a shout out to John. And does anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Well, let me throw this out there, Karen. If they're looking for John and they're wanting his information, contact anybody on this call, and we can get you John's information. But he's got a phenomenal company. The whole aspect of subject to of real estate investing, everything that we have in this whole impact innocence and system is we are problem solvers. And even if we're not going to get monetary value out of it, we can definitely find somebody that can help people out, because that's how we get our referrals for our next deal. So there we go. Thanks, Karen.
And if anybody has a subject to that they're trying to figure out how to take care of it, any one of us would probably be happy to buy the property for you. Call me first. Sorry. Okay. And then another option is that you can still put an option on it. Just don't record that so that you don't tie it up in case it does go to short sale. You don't want to mess that up for anybody. So keep that in mind. That's also an option. All right. Our second question is for Tal. Tal, how much does it cost to close a property subject to going to the title company? Tal, can you hear me?
Yeah, she's on mute.
Hi everyone. This is Tal from Oklahoma City. Hey, well, before I answer that question, would Roger want to explain what is subject to first?
Well, absolutely, yes. To open this up for those of you who don't know what subject to is, it's essentially you're taking an existing mortgage from a seller and you're taking that mortgage over. Now, you're not assuming that mortgage. You're paying that mortgage for them, and the deed goes into your name or it goes into your entity's name. So it's a very, very, when you get this down, there's a lot of moving parts to it. You do not want to do a subject to if you don't know what you're doing, if you've not done any research on it, because it will be a headache for you. But if you know what you're doing, or you're getting the right guidance from anybody on this call, and you're learning how to do this, it'll be a life-changing event for you and for the people that you work with. I actually have been involved in hundreds of subject twos. The ones I've done personally on myself and a couple others that I've helped people with, the sellers are still in contact with me. They are a great referral source for finding birds of the feather flock together, or whatever that saying is. So they have friends that may want to look and have their problem solved, but it's essentially you're taking over the payments without assuming the debt, and you're taking control of the property by having the deed. You control the deed. So that's it. So Tal, great segue.
Awesome. Thank you, Roger. Yes. So just like Roger said, we would just only taking the existing mortgage. We're not assuming. We're just going to just pay the debt off for the owner. So there's no lender involved. So we can avoid that lender fee. Just like, we're just going to pay cash for whatever. So my last subject to transaction last month, basically we just pay like any cash sale. We just pay basic closing costs at the title company, such as title insurance, title closing fee, recording fee. So the contract price was like $115,000. I pay around $1,100 on closing costs. Anyway, with closing costs just depend on how you put on the contract, who's paying the closing costs. Sometimes you may not have to pay for closing costs either.
Thank you for that. And Roger mentioned earlier that you want to always make sure that you do get that title policy, and the title companies that deal with this, they know what they're doing, and let them handle it and just cover all your bases. So.
Yes, all right. Definitely.
Oh, and I wanted to also add that does not include that's just the closing fee. That does not include the money that you have to pay to bring the property out of foreclosure or catch the payments up or anything like that. So if you're buying a property and they're 3 months behind, they may have some fees involved, and plus those payments, and you got to get all that taken care of at closing. So that's another thing.
That's right. Thank you, Karen. Yes.
Okay. Roger, this question is for you, sir. I have one in loan modification. How do I handle that?
We're seeing those pretty consistent. I'm seeing these multiple times a week, some of these multiple times a day that are in loan modification. It's actually a big deal right now. So if you're looking at doing a subject to and it's in a loan modification, you need to be very aware of how that loan modification is structured. You're going to have to work with the sellers and make sure that you have all the information for that loan modification. The difference between a normal subject to and a loan modification is pretty much there are no real subject to police out there. There's nothing wrong with a subject to. There's nothing illegal, immoral, or fattening about subject to. It is just where the banks have the right to call the loan due to the deed transfer. Now, when there's a loan modification involved, it means that more people are involved in that loan, and there's more eyes on that document, and they're looking for, or on that mortgage. So they're looking for any changes in that mortgage whatsoever. And if there's any changes as the deed being transferred into another name, there is going to be some questions. And depending on the bank, some banks are like, okay, we're good because the loan is current and is staying current. Other banks are like, no, we don't want to work with this, and we're just going to go ahead and call the due on sale clause because we just don't want to be on that radar. So we have methods on there that we do to limit that exposure, to limit that situation. So you can feel free to call us. It's very intense, and it's more than what we could get into on this call because there's a lot of additional moving parts to that. I just want you to know that if that loan has been modified or if it's in the process of being modified, you need to be reaching out to any of our IMTs on that because we can give you some ideas with that. But it most likely, my experience with the subject twos that have been modified, you're almost you got a huge percentage there where they will turn it over to the attorneys and call that note due because of the deed transfer if it's been modified. So be cautious with that. Make sure you're talking to the seller. Make sure you get that information, and then give us a call, and we can walk you through it and kind of give you some ideas on that. So thank you, Karen.
Great. I know we're going to handle this. Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, we can even guide you toward a company that can take you by the hand and lead you through that. So, if you're going to do it, you're probably going to need some help anyway. So contact an IMT, and if it's more complicated, then sometimes it's better to put it in the hands of professionals, and we can actually guide you to those.
That's correct.
Thank you for that. And I was going to say, I know that we're going to bring this up later, but I do want to remind or let everybody know that we will be having a live all-day training on Subject 2 up in Oklahoma City at Tao and David's location, and Roger will be there. So we'll give more details on that later, but that you need to be in that class. If you're not well-versed on Subject 2, Roger's going to spend about, 8 hours with us?
It's going to be all day. It's a 9 to 5, Saturday, June the 18th in Oklahoma City. If you want to register, go to any of our MeetUp sites, and we have the registration there. You can go into, I don't think we have that on Real Impact Events right now, but we'll work on getting that.
It'll be on there tomorrow.
It'll be on there soon.
Right.
Okay, so we'll realimpactevents.com. We'll have that on there. And if you're affiliated with the location, you want to pick that location you're affiliated with. We're not going to be doing it at that location, but we will be doing it at Oklahoma City. But you want to say what location you're affiliated with, so we can work with you to make sure you get the right information. So that's going to be a fun deal.
We want to know where you came from.
Pardon me?
And we want to know where they came from. Absolutely.
So the cost of that full day course is $299, and you can bring a friend for $100. If you've got a third friend, they're not as good as your first friend because it's going to cost them $299, and then they can bring a friend for $100. So it kind of works around that. So
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question is to Tim. Tim, what can I do with a property that I buy subject to? What are my options? What all can I do with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, sometimes you can pick up subject to properties and buy in some equity, and sometimes you're going to be paying full market price. But many of the loans that people have now are under 4%. Interest rates, and just in the last 6 weeks, interest rates have skyrocketed to 6.5%. So different things that you can do is one is just rent the property out, and if you can rent it for higher than the mortgage payment, then can make the spread. Even if there's little equity in the house, then you can still make cash flow. Or another great option is to sell the property with owner financing and do what's called a wraparound mortgage. And that's basically where the first mortgage stays in place, the one that you're assuming stays in place, and then the buyer that you're going to sell it to is going to get a mortgage from you that's going to wrap around the first one. So that's why it's called a wraparound mortgage. And then what you can do is you can get a large down payment, so you can get some cash in your pocket up front, as well as that get the spread of the difference between the payment that you're receiving and the mortgage payment that you're paying. So those are two options. You can rent it, and you can do an owner finance. And a third option is if you're like all of us and self-employed and have a real hard time qualifying for bank mortgages, you could find a subject to property and then get a nice house to live in yourself.
Thank you for that.
With that, Tim, I've got a friend and a client out in East Texas, and that's what he does. He'll pick up a house, he'll live in it for a couple of years, he'll do some updates through it as he lives in the house, picks it up on subject to, does that 24-month deal on the capital gains, and he is he does that every 2 years. He's still in his 20s, and I think he's on his fourth one now.
My goodness.
That he's done, and he does very well with those. I don't know how much money he makes, but I know it's well into the six figures on most houses that he does. So that's exactly what Tim said. Live it yourself, fix it up a little bit, live in there 24 months, and it's not a taxable transaction. You don't pay income tax on that transaction. You may, I don't know about state income tax in various states, but in Texas you don't. So, and you don't pay federal income tax after 24 months because it's your homestead.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Eric, next question is for you, sir. Where can I find a property that a seller might be motivated to sell it to me, subject to?
Thanks, Karen. That's a great question. How do I find these great deals? Lots of methods are very effective for this. Some of the ones are the same methods that we use to buy other properties, but some in particular, I've used print ads before in the past that reach out and are consistently placed week after week that says, often they'll say, tired of tenants and toilets? Call me, I'll take over your payments, local investor. And that is the kind that reaches out to a landlord who is sick and tired of being a landlord. I picked up one subject too because the owner married a woman who didn't want to be married to a landlord.
You saved his marriage.
For the sake of their marriage, I took over his deed. Other ways, bird dogs are great. They can bring you possible rundown properties that often indicate someone would be willing to move on, move out, and get it off their back. Mailing lists are a good way. Same message, tenants and toilets. Another awesome way to do it is through landlords. Like I said, another great place to find landlords who don't want to be landlords are eviction courts. I had a speaker at my last meeting, Greg Gray, who did a great job. He wrote a book regarding this very thing, going to the eviction court, finding the folks that are landlords, trying to get rid of folks, and handing them a piece of paper that says, tired of doing what you're doing? Let me know. And he said, just hand them that and try to walk away. They will drag you back into the building and say, what does this mean? How can I get rid of mine? So those are a couple of ways to find motivated landlords.
Well, hey, Eric, Dennis, would you ever thought that Eric would be giving us marital advice?
I better mute myself really quick.
Eric, you brought up a really good point when you said print, like in newspapers, or yes. They used to be called the thrifty nickel or whatever, the little papers that go around. That's another thing is that a lot of the older people that are older don't have social media, and they, so they're still reading the paper. They're still waiting for the paper to come because that's part of their daily routine. That's what they've always done. And if they're a landlord, that they're turning to the paper to see what houses are for sale. And they're probably wondering why there aren't as many for sale in the newspaper, because most of it has gone, social media, electronic, and online. So
Facebook Marketplace. Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Okay. Next question is for Pam. Pam, where can I get the subject to documents necessary to make sure I can get all my bases covered?
Before we answer that question, I wanted to iterate that 2 of my students are going to the eviction process and talking to landlords. And Cam, that was at Eric's meeting, she got excited about it, and then she froze once she walked inside. But then she got comfortable, and so she's actually talking to a possible landlord that has a couple of properties. So it seems like going to the eviction courts right now is very popular, and we're finding out this is just for Tarrant County, because they have the sub courthouses. So like in Lake Worth, theirs is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, And I think Arlington is on Mondays and Wednesdays. So every sub courthouse has their own eviction date. So they're hitting them during the week and covering them. So just wanted to say that the eviction courts are working in finding, subject to deals. So
Great.
okay, so where do you find documents? Well, we use our local. I'm a real estate broker, so we use our local TREC in advising to use your TREC real estate contracts and any addendum that goes with it. So if you're buying a subject to that has an HOA, you need to make sure that you have documents that cover that. If you're doing septic, a subject to with the septic system, whatever that is in there, all those documents need to be a part of that contract, of that subject to contract, to cover all those bases. And if you don't have access to all that, you need to I would suggest contacting a local real estate agent, or better yet, call one of us, IMTs. And if you're a student of ours, you have access to the subject to contracts because they're on our websites through the IMT, Real Impact Training website. So we provide the forms, the subject to forms for you. So
And we'll help you walk through it step by step.
Yes, it gives you directions. I think we even have a video on it, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure about that, but yes. So, but I do suggest using your local TREC or your local state real estate form. If something happens and you end up in court, the judges seem, to like those. So there you go.
Thank you so
and
much.
if you want more of those, if you want all those copies of all the documents, then you need to be in Oklahoma City on June the 18th.
Yes.
Because you're going to get a thumb drive with all those documents on it.
Everything on that thumb drive. So
Hey, before we go further, I have a question for Roger. I want to know because you talked about loan modifications. Are you seeing investors asking the owners to do a loan modification so that they can get they'll bring up updated, past payments and everything, but they're also asking them to refi the loan modification, even though they may not need to. Are you seeing?
Yes, absolutely. That? I'm seeing that a lot, and I'm seeing a lot of investors get in trouble with that. And that's why it came up earlier about making sure that you're that you know what you're doing if there's a loan modification. And we do there is a company out there, Equity Assurance, that handles that and makes sure that those risks are limited and just be aware that we are we're seeing that a lot, and it's not working in their favor every time.
Okay. So I wanted to bring that up because I've had a couple of people ask me about that, and I'm like, I would not do that. So
right, that's absolutely, and they're calling us after the fact and saying, okay, we're in trouble. What do we do now? And we can help with that in some cases. It is a charge, or as I say, Equity Assurance can help in that, and you can reach out to any of the IMTs, or you can just look at Equity Assurance and Facebook, and there's a link there to get your answers from that deal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, next question is for Roger. How and when do I change the insurance on a property that I'm buying subject to?
That's a great question. And up to the loan modification, the insurance was the number one stumbling block about people buying subject twos and not doing that correctly. So there's this couple of areas there you're going to look at. One is you've got to get a power of attorney from the seller giving you permission to talk to the insurance company on their behalf. If you don't have that in their insurance company, you're gonna have a stumbling block there. If they are insured through one of the one of the animal named insurance companies or online insurance companies, then I would really suggest you go ahead and change that insurance company to your subject to friendly insurance company. Not all the insurance companies understand subject to, but let me tell you something. If you call them and you don't have that power of attorney on their existing insurance, you're going to really mess up that whole deal for the whole aspect of it. If you call your insurance company and you don't have that power of attorney, then if it goes to underwriting, you pretty much have a zero chance of moving that insurance company to your insurance company if you don't have your documents in place. So to answer that and get it a total, you've got to keep the seller's name as additional insured, the person on the loan, the person on the mortgage as additional insured. But we're going to go really in depth on that on June the 18th. So you need to really look at what we can do, what you need to do on that. We're going to give you sample power of attorneys, but we do go very much in depth in that and make sure that you're not getting in trouble based on the insurance. And we've never had a problem on insurance with people that do it right.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roger. Next question is for you as well. Roger, can you explain the due on sale clause and what is the likelihood of the note being called?
And okay, yeah, absolutely. The due on sale clause is in pretty much every mortgage. Now, I don't want to surprise anybody, but I've not read every mortgage that's been placed in the United States. So I just know that the ones I've read, it's in there. So, and it will be buried in there somewhere. But it's the right for the bank to call that mortgage due with any transfers of the deed. And you need to make sure that you understand that and you have full disclosure to the seller. The seller needs to understand that too. And so you want to make sure that literally you understand what that is. And what that is the bank has that right to foreclose or to call the due loan, call the loan due. I'm talking like Yoda. Call the loan due, and they will then foreclose on your property because you moved the deed over. But there's certain things you can do to combat that. One is to make sure your insurance is correct. Number two is make sure your paperwork is correct. But the biggest thing you're going to do on a subject to is you've got to have full disclosure and you have to know how to talk to the seller. And you never promise the seller, you know what, I'm going to have this loan out of your name in 2 years or 5 years. What happens with that is that 2 years is up or that 5 years is up. Guess who's getting a phone call every day for the rest of your life or the rest of that mortgage life? Is you will be getting that phone call from the seller. You told me you would have this refinanced in 2 years. You told me you'd have this refinanced in 5 years. You know what? One thing I've learned in life is never make a promise unless you're the only one involved in that promise. If anybody else is in that decision-making factor, you do not make that promise. And we never expected 9/11. We never expected the pandemic. And we never expected this little situation going on right now in Russia and the Ukraine and bleeding over to lots of parts of the world. And the stock market doing what it's doing and the gas prices doing what they're doing. So we never expected any of that. I had 2 properties that I was refinancing. They're not subject to's, but I was refinancing at the beginning of the pandemic. The appraisals have been done. We were 3 days away from closing and the country got shut down. And the mortgage company I was working with said, we're not going to close this. We'll reimburse you for your appraisals. We'll reimburse you for all your out-of-pocket expenses. But we can't make these loans happen because we're shut down. And then, so you never know what's going to happen. You never promise anything that you're not 100% in control of. The likelihood of the subject to being called is very low, once again, if you do everything correctly. If you don't do it correctly, then your likelihood goes up rapidly as you go forward. So we have this down. Everybody on this call is extremely knowledgeable on subject to, and everybody here can help you with that. We have a phenomenal training on that. Where once again, June the 18th, we're going to be in Oklahoma City. We're looking forward to that. We're hoping to have a good showing in Oklahoma City on the 18th. You need to be there. Okay. We have there's like 45 hotel rooms, just almost within walking distance. So, lots of places to stay. It's going to be an all-day event, 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We're going to have lunch included. We're going to have great vendors there at that event that you can connect with and work with, like some loan servicers and RMLOs, which are the people that will write the loan documents if you're doing a wrap. Same thing on loan servicer if you're doing a wrap. We're going to try to work with maybe having some other support people there. I think we have title companies, insurance companies. So Tal and David are doing a phenomenal job on making sure the right people are there that you can network with and you can connect. So yeah, you just need to make sure you know what you're doing on this process. There's a lot of information out there, but be cautious. Not all the information out there on YouTube, not all the information out there on websites are going to be in your favor. Okay, there's a lot of people out there that like to talk about it, but they're not doing subject twos, and they think they know what they're doing, and they don't. There's a lot of great people out there on the internet that know what they're doing. So pick your poison and make sure you're getting good quality people that you're working with.
Awesome. Thank you. I do have a follow-up question to that. If the due on sale clause happens to be called, what happens? What are my options? Like, how long do I have to solve that problem?
Well, if it goes into foreclosure, then I tell everybody you need to have at least 2 exit strategies on every property you take. So you always work and you always have some type of funding available that you can reach out to. Private money, hard money in some cases, if the room is in there. You do not want to bury your head in the sand and ignore the situation. So
go away.
It will. Yeah, no, actually, it will go away.
But it will in a very bad way. You'll lose your asset.
Yeah, so it won't be good for you or the seller. And this is a small industry investing in your town, wherever town you're in whatever state you're in, whatever country you're in. If you mess it up, you're not going to be in this business very long because people are going to be pointing their finger at you saying, yeah, you don't want to work with that person. So what happens is you've got to have good communication. You want to communicate with the banks and you want to communicate with the bank's attorneys. When you're communicating with the banks, you want to tell them and show them how well you have performed on that note since you've taken that mortgage over. All right. I've made my payments every month. I've made them early every month. We've worked to remodel the house and we've worked to update the house, whatever it may be. If you look at the past of this house, if the seller was behind and had late payments on a periodic basis, you want to point that out. You want to point out how well it's performed since you took it over. Now, if you're late every month on those payments, you're probably going to lose the house. You're not going to be able to have that conversation with the banks and the bank's attorneys. If it goes to the attorneys, then you're really going to have to do a lot of work on that to make sure it's satisfied. If it comes down to it, there may be a situation out there, and we've got some title companies that I've worked with where you might have to put that property back into the seller's name, and you want to do that correctly. You want to work that with a title company. You want to have some things in place to make sure you're covered on that. You're not giving the house back to the sellers, but you want to help satisfy the bank on doing that. That's the last ditch effort. And then what you'll do then is you'll probably put a lien on the property, so you cloud the title, and you want to have a sales contract in place, the seller, where they're going to sell it back to you. And then you might, in the meantime, look at getting a different type of financing or putting something together on that. If you have any questions on that, once again, the company Equity Assurance, look them up on Facebook. They can answer those questions for you and help you out on that. There is going to be a charge for that. So you need to make sure that you have that in place. But if it's already in foreclosure or they're already calling the note, there's not a lot that any third-party company can do for you other than coach you through this.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, next question is for Tim. I need some education on the tax benefits of long-term ownership of rentals and how they impact net cash flow. For example, expenses and depreciation are deductible against your net operating income. I'm fuzzy on how all that rolls onto your tax return.
Well, that's a great question. However, we are not tax attorneys or CPAs. So as far as how it gets actually onto your specific tax return, we recommend that you find a great CPA, preferably in your local area. Some things that you can do to find a good CPA is to ask other investors who they're using and to interview them and see if they're investing in real estate and long-term hold property as well. If they are investing, then they're going to know the rules about that.
Thank you. That is a big thing, to get a CPA that is an investor as well, especially one that knows about subject to, because things go in certain places in different ways for different types of loans, like your wrapped mortgages and your owner finance. So make sure you're using someone that knows what they're doing, because you don't want to have to train someone on how to do their job. So go find one, ask any of us for a recommendation or ask another investor for a recommendation, and just make sure that you're comfortable with them and ask the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. They're there. You're going to pay them to do your taxes. So make sure you're comfortable with them. Thank you for that, Tim. Okay, Dennis, the last question that I have right now, if you guys have any more questions, I'm not sure if we'll have time to get to many more tonight, but drop them in the chat on YouTube or on Facebook. The last question that I have right now is for Dennis. Matthew would like to know, can you put a subject to in a land trust?
Well, a land trust is just another entity. It's like an LLC or limited partnership or a corporation. It's an entity, and you can use the land trust as an entity to put a subject to in if you would like to. The reason that you would use the land trust is anonymity, so that nobody knows who really does have control of the property. And in fact, I have used land trust with subject twos, and it actually helped out an awful lot, because I had some unscrupulous people that were trying to come after the owner, but they couldn't find who the owner was. So it worked out really well. So the answer to your question is yes.
Thank you. Okay, I think Doug wanted to add on the where to find motivated sellers that would possibly sell their property subject to is door knocking. So definitely put that in our repertoire. Looks like I'm going to be hitting the eviction courts up in the Plano area, because I'm going to be looking for a house to buy subject to. So
Good.
Yeah, if y'all see me out there, say hi.
Very good. To add something to tonight's call is subject to is absolutely a phenomenal way to do investing. There you go. So Karen's got a copy of my book. So subject to is a phenomenal way of doing investing, and you're helping a lot of people out. So subject to is not really a process you're going to do if the people are not in a bind of some type. If they have, I have people all the time say, the house is paid off, can I do a subject to? No, but they can owner finance it to you, because there's no note to take over on a house that's paid off. But what you want to do is understand you're helping a lot of people. If they have a lot of equity, they're probably going to list it on the MLS with a realtor. If they are not in a situation that they don't have to sell, then it may be difficult to do the subject to. You have to have the why there. So you want to make sure that you understand that you're helping people out and you are a problem solver. That is what all of us do, and that's what we do, and that's what everybody that has ever gone through this system understands, is you're a problem solver, whether you're solving a problem for a buyer or a seller, for another investor, for a landlord, whatever it may be. That's what we do, is we solve problems. So get out there. You've got to build your education. There's one thing in life nobody can ever take away from you, and that's an education. So Dennis, did you have something to add to that?
Well, we have some really great educational events coming up. And if you go to realimpactevents.com, you'll be able to see what they are. The first one is the Oklahoma City Subject to event. That's in, what's the 18th of June, I believe. And then in August, we have Alan Calgill coming to spend a full day on private money. He will be meeting with the groups, each of the groups throughout Northeast Texas. And then we have another event coming up in December where Roger will be doing a similar meeting. And then I think we have a train ride in December too, where we're doing a mastermind going down to San Antonio to see the Christmas lights. But the one I want to mention right now is the Mastermind Getaway, which is on September the 21st through the 25th. It's almost sold out. We have 3 rooms left at the price. Now, we may get more rooms if we have a lot of people that want to come and pay a higher price. But right now, if you want to go, you go for the price pretty much of the room, and you get the mastermind for free. So for $11.95, you get to spend several days with some real estate experts and some IMTs and some other investors. And it is a blast. Karen, tell them about how much fun it is.
It's so much fun. I mean, take your best networking event you've ever been to and multiply that times 100. There's just, hands down, this has been the best. The Mastermind Getaways are the best opportunity for networking and truly masterminding. When you can be with someone out by the pool and they're talking about their, maybe their latest good thing that happened, or even the worst thing that's happened lately, just learning and listening to how they dealt with it or how it came about. It's sometimes things that you would have never thought about, or maybe you forgot about, or something that has never happened to you yet. But when it does, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so out by the pool in Cancun told me about this. I'm going to call him or her up and ask them to tell me that again, because they may be able to tell me what I can do.
Exactly.
We do have a couple of meetings. They're not the 8 hours all day. You leave from the mastermind or the event exhausted, because we keep them short. They're a couple hours long, and it's not every single day. You definitely have dates to go out and do some excursions. It's all inclusive, all your food, all your drinks, including your alcohol. Is included. You have to pay for your airfare and your ground transportation to the resort. And then if you want to go on any excursions, typically several people will get together and say, hey, let's go into Chichen Itza today, or let's go swim with the dolphins. And there'll be a group of other investors going with you to go do something. They're everywhere I went, at meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, out by the pool, at the coffee shop, waiting for transportation. There's somebody around, and just get to know them. And I can't even tell you how many of the 62 people that went in September that I talk to on a regular basis, because they just become part of your family. So
okay,
I could talk all day about it.
Okay. Well, just go, if you want to learn more, go to mastermindgetaway.com and you can sign up there. So there's a drop-down menu, and you can say which group that you attend. And the price is very economical. It's an awful lot of fun. You'll be happy you did. But if you want to do it, you're going to have to act pretty quickly, because with just 3 rooms left, and there are no rooms. If you want to stay later, there are no rooms in the hotel.
People are back to traveling.
That's right. And so there may not be more rooms. I mean, we have the ability to get 7 more if they're available. But I don't know.
But it won't be 11. If the price is $11.95 for
Right.
2 adults and up to 2 children under the age of 12.
Right.
So keep that in mind. If you have teenage children, those won't be able to come along with you in your room unless you get a second room.
Right. Those,
It has 2 adults and 2 children,
They have
12 and under.
for the little kids, they have activities. They have
so much fun.
Oh yeah, they just have a blast. They have these little girls dressed in sailor outfits, and they're taking those little children all over the resort. And the kids are just having a ball. They have a water park to play in. It's just a wonderful event for children. And of course, my favorite thing down there is the Cocoa Cafe. After every meal, we go and eat at the little coffee shop. They have some really good pastries. So anyway, we'd love to have everyone join us. So
the name of the resort is
yes, it's
Jade
Dreams
Jade Cancun. Sorry, thank you, Dennis.
Right. Now, don't go to the resort and sign up. If you
don't,
then you'll pay the same price, but then you'll have to pay us an additional $500 to come to our meetings. So if you're going to sign up, be sure to sign up through MastermindGetaway.com, and that way you'll get the event.
Right, and the price does not include airfare or hotels or the airport transportation.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's worth every dime. Gosh, we've been doing this over a decade. Yeah, we started out on cruise ships and then wound up these dream resorts are just phenomenal to go to. All inclusive, all your meals, all your drinks, everything's inclusive in that. We do karaoke. We just have a lot of fun with that.
We had a cocktail party.
Right. Yeah. Dinner where we all they give us special
dinner
and work with us. And this has grown every year since we started. You know, it fills up really quickly. People come back. But here's the thing, the experts always ask, can we come back? Can we be an expert? So we try not to have the same experts every year, but they all want to come back. Some of them come back just for the event.
There you go.
Now,
also, I want to do a plug here on my book, Subject To. You can get one of these free if you go to Oklahoma City on the 18th. There you go. So, or you can order it online on subject2book.com. So this is there you go. And that's the thumb drive that Eric has down there that you will be getting at the June 18th event. So that has tons of documents, ebooks, all kinds of stuff on there. So reach out, go meet us in Oklahoma City. Tal and David are putting a phenomenal event together. And then we're going to close this out. Does anybody have anything before I introduce something at the close?
I do have one more thing. If you're not comfortable with Subject To or knowledgeable, and someone tells you that they're behind in their mortgage, call one of us. We will walk you through it, or we will take care of it. Just don't get scared and say, well, I don't know anything about how to catch their payment up. If they're behind their payment, they're just behind their payment. Right. Give us a call. We'll find a solution. We solve problems.
We'll partner with you if nothing else.
Yeah, CJ, put the number up that they can call. There you go. So if you'll call this number, that's me, my cell phone. I'll put you in touch with the person closest to you and or guide you toward the help that you need.
There you go. Well, and then to close this out, we have a phenomenal video that we're going to close this out with of a gentleman that came to one of our Sub 2 trainings. I think it was this last year. He walked up to me while we were having lunch and he says, he gave me the testimonial you're fixing to hear. That's the first time I heard it. I was just absolutely blown away. So CJ, if you can put Tommy on here, everybody else say bye, but you want to stay and watch this video. Okay? Watch this video. Thank you, CJ. Y'all have a good evening.
Why don't you go on?
All right. Thank you. Can everybody hear me? All right. So I knew nothing about real estate in November of 2017. And I took a class, learned a little bit of the basics. Didn't know how to acquire a property. Like most of y'all, I thought, gosh, I have a little bit of money, but this is kind of tough. Where do I even begin, right? So I discovered Roger in 2018 and took his Subject 2 class. I think it was in Fort Worth. And it was pretty cool, right? I mean, everything you're learning, you guys are just at the beginning of the class today. But halfway through the day, I started realizing, wow, there's really, really something to this. So I went out and I aggressively found the attorney, found the CPA, did my marketing. And that's actually when Facebook was actually working for marketing. And so my first year, starting summer of 2018 until summer of 2019, we acquired 26 properties with Subject 2 in 1 year. Yep, 26. Unfortunately, here's the downside. I'm like, what do I do with these properties as we're picking them up? So we moved out of the 26, we ended up selling 21 of them. And today we still have 5 of that original first batch of the first year. But since then, once I finally learned how to keep properties long-term, we keep them. So now we got a pretty simple model. We keep every property. We never sell a property except owner financing. So if it's in a great school district, I keep it for a rental. If it's not in the perfect school district and it's under a certain price point, for me, like today's value, if it's under $300,000, and it's in a bad school district, I just owner finance it out. And I move them, gosh, 1 week, 2 weeks tops, I've got a buyer. 10% down, 10% interest. So it's pretty good. It's a simple model. And once you get going with it, it's you just don't turn back. It's easy, very easy. Thanks to Roger.
All right, well, thank you, Tommy.